the lingering shadows of the Joelma building. Greetings, lovers of mystery and horror. Welcome to our channel, where we unravel the darkest stories that haunt history and imagination. Today, we will delve into a tale of tragedy and horror that echoes through generations, a story marked by blood and unsolved mysteries. But before we delve into the horrors surrounding the Ashford Legacy, let's recall a place here in Brazil that bears its own ghostly scars, the Joelma building in São Paulo. In 1974, a devastating fire claimed hundreds of lives, leaving behind not only a trail of physical destruction but also numerous accounts of apparitions and inexplicable phenomena. Even today, many believe that the souls trapped in that tragic event still roam the corridors, a grim reminder of how tragedy can leave an indelible mark on our world and, perhaps, the afterlife. Just like the Joelma building, some families seem to carry a burden of misfortune, a shadow that extends to their members over time. Today, we will explore one such story, the terrifying and mysterious Ashford Legacy, a saga of tragic and disturbing events that led some to believe the family itself was cursed, haunted by blood. Prepare yourselves, as this is a dark journey that will take us to the darkest corners of history, or perhaps a story that could very well have happened. The genesis of Misfortune, a founding tragedy. The story we know as the tragedy of the Ashford Legacy has its roots in the early 20th century, on a prosperous yet isolated farm in the interior of Brazil. Let's call it Fazenda da Lua Sangrenta, Bloody Moon Farm. The Ashford family, led by patriarch Amadeu Ashford, was known for its wealth and influence in the region. However, behind the facade of success, rumors whispered about Amadeu's ruthless ambition and his pursuit of power at any cost. The first shadow to fall upon the family was the premature death of Amadeu's wife, Elisa, under mysterious circumstances. Officially, it was declared a sudden illness, but local gossip suggested possible involvement from Amadeu, perhaps in search of a more advantageous marriage or to silence some secret. The truth never came to light, but this first tragedy planted a seed of distrust and foreboding that would haunt the Ashfords for generations. The children's curse, unexplained accidents and illnesses. Amadeu and Elisa had 3 children, Isabella, the eldest, known for her beauty and free spirit, Antonio, the middle child, a reserved and introspective boy, and Sofia, the youngest, an adorable and lively child. After Elisa's death, a series of inexplicable events began to afflict the children. Isabella, still young, suffered a mysterious fall from a horse that left her with a permanent limp and a somber temperament. Antonio, once a healthy boy, began to suffer from a debilitating illness that doctors of the time could not diagnose, slowly wasting away until his death in adolescence. And little Sofia, the joy of the family, fell victim to a sudden and fulminant fever, taking her in a matter of days. The local community, already intrigued by Elisa's death, began to murmur about a possible curse. Some believed that Amadeu's unbridled ambition had attracted dark forces to his family, while others whispered about a possible dark secret that Elisa had taken to her grave and was now avenging through her children. Amadeu, devastated and increasingly isolated, desperately tried to find rational explanations, but the succession of tragedies seemed to defy logic. Isabella's isolation and the whispers of madness. Isabella, the only surviving child, carried the weight of the family tragedies. Her limp physically isolated her, and the pain of losing her siblings and the mysterious death of her mother plunged her into a deep melancholy. Over the years, her behavior became increasingly erratic. She would spend hours wandering the farm, whispering to herself, and some servants swore they had heard her talking to invisible figures. Rumors about Isabella's sanity spread throughout the region. Some avoided her, fearing that she was cursed like the rest of her family. Amadeu, aged and consumed by guilt, tried to care for Isabella, but his own mental health was deteriorating under the weight of his losses. The once grand Fazenda da Lua Sangrenta became a place of sadness and silence, where shadows seemed to lengthen and the whispers of the wind sounded like laments. Amadeu's downfall and the inheritance of sorrow. Tragedy was not limited to Amadeu's personal life. His financial endeavors began to fail, and the Ashford family's fortune began to decline. Some said it was the curse manifesting itself in business as well, while others attributed the decay to Amadeu's neglect, consumed by grief and worry for Isabella. Amadeu passed away in 1935, leaving Isabella a dilapidated farm and an inheritance of sadness and mystery. Isabella never married and lived reclusively on the farm, her mental health gradually deteriorating. Locals avoided Fazenda da Lua Sangrenta, considering it a cursed place, and stories of apparitions and strange sounds began to emerge, further fueling the legend of the Ashford Legacy. The second generation, a glimmer of hope and renewed tragedy. The story seemed destined to end with Isabella's death in 1960. The farm remained abandoned for years, fueling ghost stories. However, in the 1982, a distant descendant of the Ashfords, a young engineer named Raphael, decided to try and revive the property. He did not believe in the stories of curses, seeing the farm as a restoration project and an opportunity for a fresh start for his family. Narrator: Raphael and his wife, Sofia, a coincidence of name that some considered a bad omen, moved to the farm with their two young children, Lucas and Mateus. Initially, everything seemed promising. Raphael worked hard to restore the farm, and the family enjoyed a few years of peace and happiness. However, the shadow of the Ashford legacy would soon loom over them again. Echoes of the past, strange occurrences, and growing fear. Small, inexplicable incidents began to occur. Objects moved on their own, doors creaked without wind, and the family heard indistinct whispers at night. Sofia, especially sensitive to these occurrences, began to feel a sinister presence in the house. She reported having vivid nightmares with shadowy figures and felt invisible eyes watching her. Narrator: Raphael, a man of science, tried to find logical explanations for the events, attributing them to the wind, the old structure of the house, or Sofia's imagination. However, as the incidents became more frequent and disturbing, even he began to doubt his own explanations. The children, Lucas and Mateus, also began to behave strangely, talking about an invisible friend who seemed sad and angry. The return of tragedy, an accident with familiar parallels. Tragedy struck the Ashford family once again in a chillingly familiar way. Lucas, the eldest son, an energetic and adventurous boy, suffered a serious fall while playing near the horses. The accident left him with a leg injury that would affect him for the rest of his life, a grim echo of Isabella's limp. The incident deeply shook the family. Sofia was convinced that it was not a mere accident but a manifestation of the curse that plagued the family. Fear and paranoia began to settle in the house, eroding the happiness they had found there. Raphael, despite trying to maintain a skeptical stance, could not ignore the strange similarity to the family's past. Sofia's descent and the legend of the hidden room. Sofia became obsessed with the history of the Ashford family, researching old documents and talking to the oldest residents of the region. She discovered rumors about a hidden room in the farmhouse where Amadeu Ashford supposedly kept dark secrets and objects linked to obscure rituals. Narrator: the search for this hidden room became Sofia's obsession. She believed that within it she could find the key to understanding the curse that afflicted her family. Her behavior became increasingly strange and withdrawn, echoing Isabella's reclusion in the past. Raphael, desperate to help her, found himself torn between concern for his wife's sanity and the growing feeling that something sinister truly haunted the farm. The revelation, a secret burial, and a legacy of guilt. Finally, Sofia discovered the hidden room. Inside, amidst yellowed papers and dusty objects, she found a diary belonging to Elisa Ashford, Amadeu's first wife. The pages revealed a shocking truth. Elisa had not died of illness but had been poisoned by Amadeu, who wished to get rid of her to marry another woman who would bring him more power. Narrator: the diary also mentioned Elisa's remorse and a deep fear that the injustice she suffered would curse her descendants. In a particularly disturbing passage, Elisa described burying an object of great sentimental value beneath an old tree on the farm grounds, an object that, according to her, contained part of her soul and her pain, the final tragedy and the lingering presence. Consumed by anger and sadness upon discovering the truth about the death of her namesake, Sofia decided to find the object buried by Elisa. She believed that by unearthing it, she could free the family from the curse. However, fate had other plans. The search for the object led Sofia to a state of physical and mental exhaustion. On a fateful day while digging under the old tree, she suffered a sudden collapse, dying shortly after. Some say it was the weight of the truth that brought her down, while others whisper that Elisa herself, disturbed by the desecration of her symbolic grave, claimed her life. Raphael, now alone with his children, abandoned Fazenda da Lua Sangrenta, unable to bear the weight of the tragedies and mysteries that surrounded it. The farm once again became deserted, and the ghost stories intensified. Locals claimed to have seen pale figures wandering the fields at night, heard the cries of children, and felt an oppressive sadness lingering over the property. Some even swear they have seen Sofia's spirit wandering near the old tree, still searching for the buried secret. The Unbroken Cycle and a Warning. The story of the Ashford Legacy is a dark tale that reminds us how secrets, ambition, and tragedies can leave deep scars, not only on individual lives but on entire families, echoing through generations. Whether it was a supernatural curse or the relentless weight of fate, the tragedy that haunted the Ashfords seems to have perpetuated itself, staining their history with blood and mystery. And just like the souls that supposedly haunt the Joelma building, the Ashford Legacy serves as a reminder that some stories of pain and suffering are never completely forgotten, remaining as whispers in the wind, shadows in the night, and a grim warning about the consequences of our actions. If you enjoyed this dark story and want more tales of terror and mystery like this, please subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos, and share it with that friend who loves a good spooky story. See you in the next video.